What is going on? I am Mike Straus. That is Sean Lennon. This is the S&M podcast.
Yeah.
We are going to briefly talk about the fallout from UFC 264, and then we will go right into UFC Vegas 31. Just a couple of our thoughts on that. We'll probably give our main card picks, but UFC 264 is in the books, man. It did not end the way any of us could have predicted.
No.
What are your main takeaways?
My main takeaways is when you watch that first fight, holy shit, this is like crazy. I wanted to chant ECW during that fight because that's literally what it was. It was just a street fight, man. Obviously a guy who solidified himself at 135, and Sugar Sean O'Malley taking on Chris Montino, who is a relative unknown unless you really follow, the regional MMA scene. He's the only thing I know about him. He's managed by Tyson Chartier, and I'm aiming to reach out to Tyson because this kid took everything Sean O'Malley had and kept coming forward. He was like Korean Zombie 2.0. I mean, like the sequel to Korean Zombie. Like Chris Montino, he is tough as nails, and he was not going to. And I think the stoppage might have been premature too. So that's one takeaway, and I'll just give it at that. But Sugar Sean O'Malley back in the win column, 2 wins in a row, looking great, and got called out by Cody Garbrandt. Or he called out Cody Garbrandt, I think. Next takeaway is, of course, when we go back and we look at that co-main event, not the most fun one, but Gilbert Burns got it done against Wonder Boy. I know you had Gilbert Burns, so you got me on that one. Did what he had to do to win. It wasn't the most exciting fight. I think Wonder Boy was kind of hesitant at times. Kind of thrown off, with the constant takedowns. It was a close fight too, but clearly you could see in the third round, Gilbert is the winner of this fight. They predicted the right winner. I don't know who Gilbert faces next. I'd like to see him and Masvidal maybe, but he called out Masvidal, right? Let's look at who he called out. He called out everybody, but who he should be fighting, because obviously, of course, my third takeaway, of course, is the big heavyweights, big finish. And I had called it right on the podcast, but then I went against my original pick, and I will admit, I could totally be an asshole now and say that, but no, I did go with the Prince of War. I did go with Hardy, but Tai Tuivasa, what a finish. And listen, it could have been the other man. So those are my 3 picks, that huge knockout win. And I think he deserved that knockout. If you look at, and that's on a personal note, he might have deserved that, not just his past, but just he had a big ego. You could see his ego rising with each win. So, and I thought that it was going to be a tough fight, like kind of he's fighting out of his level. I think he's still in that novice to intermediate level is Dan is Hardy. So I keep wanting to say Dan Hardy, Greg Hardy, of course, not the outlaw. But yeah, those are my 3 takeaways.
I like it. I'll just touch on a couple points that you mentioned. Sean O'Malley, we know that kid's incredible. He definitely deserves a top 15 fight next. I see everybody praising this kid, Chris Mahutno, whatever. He's got all the heart in the world. And to steal good old JR's line, the kid's tougher than a $2 steak. Okay.
Yes.
But he does not have the skills to be heart alone is not enough to land you in the UFC. This kid doesn't belong in the UFC. He's a great regional fighter. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't believe he's UFC caliber. I mean, the only reason why we got to see his heart is because he got pieced the fuck up. That's the only reason. So never in that fight was O'Malley in danger. O'Malley is a star. They know what they have in that case. The Gilbert Burns and Stephen Thompson fight, it didn't go quite how I thought it would go. If you notice, Stephen Thompson, that dude is in a lot of boring fights. Both of the fights with Tyron Woodley were 5-round boring fights. Sure, they had 1 or 2 moments, but overall, those fights were snooze fests. Yeah. I mean, Thompson seems to have, and I don't think it's anything against him per se. It's more of how his opponents approach him because of his striking ability. Greg Hardy, yeah, he got what he deserved, a lot of people would say. And Tai Tuivasa, how about this kid, man? He bursts into the UFC, then he kind of stumbles and falls on a 3-fight skid, and now he finds himself on a 3-fight winning streak. So that kid is incredible. He reminds me a lot of Mark Hunt back in the day. Of course, he's a idol and training partner or former training partner of his. But yeah, I mean, we didn't even mention the big main event, of course, Poirier ups McGregor. But the way it happened with that ankle injury, you know what I find crazy, man, is have you seen all this stuff now about McGregor talking about how he had hairline fractures in his leg before the fight now?
Well,
so McGregor's never lost a fight. You know, his throat was hurting him before Diaz choked him out and before Khabib choked him out. Right, this guy could never lose, man. What's up?
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's to be expected. You know how the post-fight interview was interesting. If I was Joe Rogan, I would not interview a guy that's on the ground like that. But that's me. You know, you know, if that was my job, I'd be like, you know, walk on eggshells. But listen, Joe Rogan's in the position he is because of who he is. He was pissed off. I don't blame him for being pissed off. I mean, I thought he looked good early on. I'm talking about like the first couple minutes where he was throwing those kicks. He was confusing Dustin a little bit. I mean, he was kind of frustrating. He was frustrating Dustin, not confusing. He was frustrating him. Let's be honest. But I knew it was only a matter of time. And Dustin going in for the takedown, that was beautiful. And when he was on top, but I did like that Conor did show some kind of takedown defense, right? He knew some grappling defense. He knew how to scramble a little bit. So I appreciated what Conor showed us. I appreciated, but it was not enough to make me think that this guy's ready for a title shot or even remotely to take. You ain't taking that away from Dustin. This is Dustin's fight with Oliveira. You ain't taking that away from him. You ain't, or you're going to go fight a money match with Nate Diaz. No, you're going to be on the shelf. And from what we've noticed, that basically it was him and Sean O'Malley from the injury reports. And you did say, right? You did say Montino, right? Oh, I understand what you're saying. Doesn't belong in UFC. But did you read their injury reports? I believe it said Sean O'Malley and Conor McGregor out 6 to 8 months.
Yeah, O'Malley is fragile. There's no doubt about it. He's fragile, but he has skill though.
And I beg to differ. I think Montino deserves another shot in UFC. I beg to differ, because he injured the guy, and he took what he had and give him a shot. I mean, come on, we gave CM Punk a shot, you know.
Yeah, well, there's a big reason.
I'm friendly with Tyson, so of course I'm rooting for the Boston Northeastern underdog.
Nothing personal. I just gotta I'm a purist.
Your opinions, yeah.
But moving on to this weekend, we have UFC Vegas 31, Islam Makhachev, Thiago Moises. This is a very very important fight for the lightweight division, man. Very, very important.
Yes.
A lot of people are calling Makhachev the next Khabib. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he's 19-1. Amazing record. Guys don't want to fight him. Like, I give Drew Dober props for fighting him. And, I even think that some people fight him the wrong way. Like, I think Drew Dober engaged him in the grappling exchanges too much. I think Drew Dober needs to retool everything. I'm not saying everything, right? So I'm not the expert. But what I'm saying from that fight, he should have tried something different. He should have tried not to counter him. But it's easy to say that from my chair and then from being an MMA fighter. But if you're fighting this guy, you cannot allow grappling exchanges to even occur. And it's at a point that he's going to make them happen whether you allow them or not. And that's where he wins. He has a similar style to Khabib. He's dangerous. I do want to see him finish guys more. That's kind of like what I'm looking for him when you talk about, a guy being a title contender, or saying that he is the next Khabib. His last win was against Cajun Johnson by armbar in the first round. That was back in 2018 that he had to finish. And prior to that fight, he did have a first round finish of Gleison Tybalt. So he has had finishes. But he
finished Drew Dober in his last fight, dude.
Right. Okay. Yeah, right. He did finish Drew Dober. And what I'm saying is, you said Khabib. I'm looking for more of those finishes. I'm looking for more first round finishes.
I don't think Khabib didn't have many first round finishes. The vast majority of his fights were won by decision.
They were. So, but are you saying that is he equal to Khabib or better than Khabib? I think you should always say he could be better than Khabib. Like that should always be like the argument to make, right? So if he wants to be better, he's got to get more fit, more consistent finishes. I think he's great. I think he could be at Khabib's level for 155. If he goes in and defeats Moises, he's looking at maybe a fight away from being a title contender for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I like what you said there too, that
Yeah,
their
I
aim
get
should always
confused.
be to kind of be above. Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, this is a tough fight to pick, man. I think that Moises is going to present a challenge for
Yes.
Makhachev, but I don't believe it's a challenge that Makhachev is not ready for, that he hasn't seen. That I just don't think that Moises presents a challenge to Makhachev that he's seen. So I have to go Makhachev all day in this. If I play this fight out 100 times in my head, Moises might get 2 or 3, but I think that Makhachev will win this, and he'll probably make it look fairly easy, and he should get a top fight after this. I mean, as you said, I think one more fight away, and then you got to be talking about this guy as the next guy.
Oh yeah. I like to see Makhachev take on Kevin Lee.
That could potentially, yeah, if he gets by Moises, that would be a great fight.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. I mean, Kevin Lee, he just had that big finish, in his return fight. So I'd like to see that. I think that fight makes sense. You don't want to put him right up against the champion or even the contenders that surround the champion. I mean, Michael Chandler could be a possibility, but we've also heard Michael Chandler might be linked to Justin Gaethje. We've been hearing that for a while now. But anyways, yeah, moving on. Great fight, great matchup.
In the co-main event, it's unique, right? Because in the co-main event, we have 2 different sides of the retirement coin. Marion Renault, she is retiring. She's made it, clear that this is her last fight. Miesha Tate, she's on her way back. This is her first fight from a 5-year sabbatical away from the sport. So it's an interesting dichotomy heading into this fight. I think that 5 years is a long time in any sport, but in mixed martial arts, it's maybe the argument can be made that it's even a bigger gap. Yeah. I'm going to say Marion Renault is going to get her hand raised in this fight. And I hope it's not like a one-off for Miesha Tate. I hope it's something that she sticks with, because I do think that the women's division, the 135-pound division, is a little light, and I think that her name value is worth a lot. And I think that her back in the division is very good for the sport, especially for women's mixed martial arts. But I'll take Renault. What do you think?
Well, last year, 2 of my biggest interviews were women's fighters, former UFC women's champions, and one of them was Miesha Tate. And got to talk to her, but didn't talk about anything. When I did ask about fighting, said she felt like she quit at the right time. It wasn't on her mind because she was pregnant at the time, and now that she has that past her, we'll see. I mean, I'm interested to see how she comes out. She's trained, I think, was it Eric Nixick in
Extreme Couture?
Yeah, but she her head trainer was her former boyfriend, Brian Caraway.
Yep.
And I don't want to get personal, but I've heard stuff about their relationship and about, that their personal, not only just personal, but their training relationship. I want to see how she is with Eric Nixick. She's obviously working, I think, with Jessica I, but Jessica, I think, just moved from Extreme Couture. I think I'm correct. Yeah, you're right. So I don't know if she got time with her. She still has like some other women that do train there. So I want to see, what she's learning, what she's bringing, and I'm excited for this one. Marion Renault is tough. Marion Renault is tough. This is a hard one to pick. I am going with Miesha Tate just because of the fact that I think that time off has healed all wounds, has healed her body. I think Marion Renault is the one that, the fight game has taken a toll on her, especially when you look at the last 4 decision losses, 4 in a row. I would love to see her go out with a finish. Well, not with a finish, with a win. I'd like to see her go out with a win, just because it is her last fight on her contract. That's the storybook ending, right? But we don't always get that, right? Because we can't write the script in the UFC. No one writes a script. The script to me shows that Miesha Tate goes in there, who's fresher, who's a bit younger, who's savvy, just as savvy as Marion Renault, and that the experience of Marion Renault and Miesha Tate are kind of at the same level. But the fact that she hasn't had her body kind of like, going through these training camps, being broken down, I think it just gives her a slight edge. I mean, this is a close fight, and either one can come out the victor. But I'm going with Miesha Tate just on that alone, that she is the fresher competitor.
And the next fight on the card has diehards just going crazy. It's Mateusz Gamrot and Jeremy Stephens. Jeremy Stephens, Matt, he is making his 33rd walk to the octagon on Saturday night. He is the 10th all-time in UFC Fight Night bonuses. He always comes to bring a show. His knockouts of Josh Emmett come to mind. I mean, his push of Drakkar Klose recently. That being said, he's fighting a very, very tough kid. This Gamrot, Polish pride right here. His nickname is the Gamer, and the kid is exactly that. He's 1-1 in the UFC, but he has been honing his craft in Europe in KSW. And for those who know, KSW is the real fucking deal, Rob Van Dam style. So let me tell you, this is going to be a tough fight for Stevens. I like Gamrot, and a lot of people have this pegged as fight of the night. Not me. I'll tell you that in a little bit. But a lot of people have this one. What do you think?
This is a tough fight for both guys. I'm kind of leaning towards Gamrot just because, you said KSW. He's got experience there. Jan Blachowicz competed there. The other guy that's making a name for himself at light heavyweight.
Peter Yan, I think, was there too.
Yeah, Peter Yan, but also that the guy who knocked out Reyes last.
Prochayak?
Yeah. Didn't he compete in KSW?
Igor Prochayak, I believe so, yep.
Yeah. Igor Prochayak, right. So, yeah, there's some killers that come from there. Stevens is a great fighter, but, I just think, I hate to go back on the wear and tear and all that because he's been fighting consistently. I don't think he has pulled out of many fights. Okay, so he's pulled out of his last 2. Before that, he was fighting consistent, right? Because he wasn't pulling out of any fights.
Something also to keep in mind is this is Jeremy Stevens' first lightweight fight since 2012 when he fought Yves Edwards at UFC Fox 5.
Well, it's about time. I think that weight cut is not a good weight cut for him at his age.
Right.
That could also be beneficial for Jeremy Stevens. This is a fight that's just so hard to predict on many levels. It just depends what Jeremy Stevens would get. We've seen Jeremy Stevens, go out there and destroy guys. Then we've seen the last 4 fights of Jeremy Stevens, 4 losses in a row. Great fighters like Aldo Magomed Sharapov and Yair Rodriguez, Calvin Kattar. But, we haven't seen him in the win column for a while, since 2018. So his win against Josh Emmett. So it's a frustrating, position to be in. And I got Gamrot. I don't want to make the same argument I did with the Misha Tate, but it's just, looking at the records, it's very hard, to assume, it's easy to assume that, Stevens is not competing at a level he used to be, but anything can happen. I won't put it past Stevens. And like I said, I'll be the first one to admit I picked it wrong, but I'm going with Gamrot. I'm giving him a decision. I think that Stevens is tough enough to hang with him all 3 rounds.
We get to the only middleweight fight on the entire card. Rodolfo Vieira and Dustin Stolfus. We'll just quickly cover this fight. Rodolfo Vieira, he's a tough cookie, man. It's incredible. He makes the 186-pound limit. He's only has 1 defeat. He's 7-1. Stolfus is 13-2 on the flip side. Both of these guys are capable strikers. I probably give the edge to Stolfus in that department. That being said, Rodolfo's probably got the advantage on the ground. This is a very pivotal fight for both of these men because with a loss, you're right on the cusp of potentially being let go if you're Vieira, and if you're Stolfus, a win propels you right into not the top 15, but right at that next level. So this is a very important fight for these guys. I think that eventually the fight will get to the ground, and I think Vieira shines there. So I think that he'll win.
Yeah, I think this is a good fight too. I think it's two guys who are hungry, ready to go at it. Stolfus, I remember him from Contender Series. Mm-hmm. He had that sick, arm injury. He slammed the guy, and then he got the Contenders. He luckily he got the Contender Series win. This is a fight that I think just comes down to which guy wants it more, but just like the opportunity presents to Rivera. Like, do you want to stay in the UFC? Do you want to make this happen or not? You're kind of at the crossroads of your UFC career. He's had wins over Oscar Pehota, and Nemkov. Those are finishes. But I want to see more of his game, besides the BJJ. I think that's what makes you a UFC fighter, to see more of those wins over, So I want to see that because Stolfus can strike. He's got good skills with the jits, but I just think you got to diversify your game. If we see that, I think Vieira wins. So I'm going to go with Vieira.
And then kicking off the main card is Billy Quarantillo and Gabriel Benitez.
Good fight. Good
This is
fight.
a very good fight. If you're following the sports line, this is one of the closest lines on the entire night. I keep going back and forth in my head on this one. I like both of these guys. Benitez has that stereotypical Mexican heart as a fighter. You know, he just keeps coming
Yes.
and coming and coming. Quarantillo, he brings more of like an American traditional style of boxing. Both of these guys are really good. I think this is going to be a really fun fight, a really good way to kick off the card. Probably going to go to a decision, but I think it's going to be a fun fight to watch all the way through. I'm going to take Quarantillo. He's a slight dog right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I do want to take Quarantillo, but Benitez, man, he just came off that big win that needed a body over Justin James. He looked great in that fight, you know. And I think he was originally supposed to fight Adrian Yanez, right? Benitez and Yanez were supposed to fight, but that never happened. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Looked
Maybe
like he was supposed to fight. He was supposed to fight Jonathan Pierce.
Jonathan Pierce. Okay.
That got canceled. That was in May.
For some reason, I thought Benitez and Yanez were supposed to fight, and early on it got canceled. But anyways, moving on. He's got a win over Sam Cecilia. He's got wins over Jason Knight, Bandone. I mean, you know, Quarantillo is a guy that, you know, comes in there and, you know, really can pour it on. But it seems like he gets on the wrong side, like the fight with Gavin Tucker. Like, you know, that to me was his fight to win, and just kind of gave it up. It's a tough one to pick, man. And, you know, I'm going off just like my previous knowledge of their fights, you know, before this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with Quarantillo, but Benitez is so tough. Is a good fighter, though. I mean, and just the two losses. That's it. The two losses prior to his last win. If he didn't have those, if he had three wins in a row, I would definitely pick him. So maybe I'm reading into the records too much, and I'm guilty of doing that. If I am, I'm going with Quarantillo on that. I think Quarantillo is more durable. I think he's more durable.
Yeah, I think flip a coin on this one. I think we're all going to be entertained, but either one of those guys could definitely win that fight. UFC Fight Night, Vegas 30. I can't believe there's been 31 of these things in the Apex Center already.
I know. They're during the quarantine because they're called UFC Vegas, not UFC Fight Night Chicago or UFC Fight Night California. Yeah,
right.
Sacramento. Yeah, man, that's crazy to think. And he's going to keep it that way, Dana White. He's not going to bring it on the road because COVID still is right. I mean, we just found out in September what UFC 266 will be. Right. And we just found out the fights, which is, you know, Robbie Lawler, Nick Diaz. We found out it's going to be the featherweight title, Volkanovski Ortega from The Ultimate Fighter, which I've been watching The Ultimate Fighter. I love it. And then Lauren Murphy will be challenging Valentina Shevchenko. And that'll be on, I believe, in the end of September 25th. So we still don't know the cards for October, which is rumored to be Fight Island, November, or December.
Well, until we meet again, my friend.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you, of course. Check out Fight League Report and all the great stuff Mike Straus is doing, Chi-Town Hustle. And we appreciate you, of course, for all the great camera work you're doing, making us look good. Yeah,
for sure.
I
appreciate you kicking it with me.